All right, we're back on our Pontiac stroker build, or 350. So there's two things here. We've got our windage tray on and our dipstick assembly. The reason why I'm doing this part just in these two things that need to be done at the same time. So I'm going to start with, and I'm going to also go to the oil pump. We put our oil pump on first, and it is a Melling oil pump. I believe I've already disclosed what part number it is, but I want to talk about this oil pump first. Something I've learned, we just did a small block Mopar with a Melling oil pump on it. They're great, these are what they suggest. I have no problem with Melling. But on our other engine build, we happen to have a leak out the oil pan. I had to pull the pan down, and I just so noticed that the cap, this plate, hadn't been torqued, was not tight from Melling. So this one's good, this one's torqued, but always check that. The other thing is you clean the hell out of this oil pump. They've got preservative and all kinds of stuff in these oil pumps. So what I like to do is I spray those things out and get all that preservative out. I use brake clean, and then I put oil in it by hand, and I rotate the pump by hand back and forth so it feels nice and it's not catchy. You know, of course it's trying to spit oil out, but I put plenty of oil in this before I start turning anything. When I get the oil pump pickup on, I'm going to put more oil in it. I'm going to put some thick oil in it because it's going to get primed. So that's the oil pump. Windage tray. When you are building a stroker, you've got to have, if you're going to use a windage tray, you've got to have a windage tray that's for a stroker. Now Butler has a stroker windage tray. You say, well, it looks like just any other windage tray. Well, it may be, but it comes with spacers. There's spacers that are under here. You can see one of them right there. It's on the, looks like the number 2 and the number 4 main caps. Of course, they're drilled for it. Everybody knows that, right? So those are on, but that also leads me to the dipstick tube assembly. On the Pontiac, you've got a AC dipstick assembly, and you have a non-AC dipstick assembly. This is where it kind of gets into, you got to do them both at the same time so you can fit this thing. Now this is 3 pieces. So this is the top piece that comes in from the car. This is the main dipstick tube assembly. And I also want to show you, I use mine from Butler. I bought the tool years ago from Butler for our other Pontiac builds. This tool is what you use to drive this main dipstick tube assembly in. And I had to go in and drive this because I wasn't sure how far this needed to be in, but it appears it needs to be pretty close to flush. But this is how you get that dipstick tube assembly into it's just basically pressed with this tool. Then you've got to make sure if this hits the right angle, because this windage tray is going to, the tube is going to fight you when you go to put your windage tray in. So it takes a little finagling. What keeps this, the lower part, and I know all my Pontiac buddies probably know, but for those that don't, the windage tray basically keeps this lower piece in. It slides into the main assembly here. So it just, the windage tray actually kind of almost puts it in a little bit of a bind so that it doesn't go anywhere. Lastly, to know that to make sure that I had it right, I put my top dipstick tube assembly in, and I just went ahead and installed everything. This will go to, I believe, the AC compressor to the front of the car. As you can see, it looks like we're pretty good. So we're going to fit the pan after I put the oil pump pickup on, and we're going to start fitting our pan. Okay, here's where it gets into the little quirks of the type of engine you're building. This is our Pontiac water pump impeller clearance. Now, if you come over here and look, this is the original baffle here. I call it a baffle, backing plate. You see over here all the corrosion over here? Obviously, it's had its better days. It's got to be replaced, right? And of course, you always replace your sleeves. Our sleeves were worse than this. They were corroded, so we got our new sleeve kit from Butler. They go inside the water pump. I think all my Pontiac friends know this, if you haven't built a Pontiac. However, I wanted to check, this is the factory clearance that they had. And if you look, it's between the impeller and the backing plate. So I'm gonna grab mine. I've already measured what they had from the factory. This was an air conditioning car, and they had 109 thousandths of clearance is what I end up coming up with. They say there's a big range on this, but yeah, I believe it's 80 to like almost 2. If you have, they say if you have more than 250, it's not right. So I don't want to get anywhere near 250. That's 109 thousandths right there. So I'm going to take our new, if you look at our new baffle plate here, this is our new pump from Butler. This, I believe, is a GMB. It's a high output. It's got the thick, I believe the impellers are longer, they're thicker. But now when I got to put this one on, you're going to see that it has a lot more clearance. I'm just going to put it in here, not get crazy. So, most likely it's going to have more clearance. It's pretty close, but not quite. I would say that's my 109 going in there sloppy, so it's probably closer to 130. I just want to tighten it up a little bit. Well, how am I going to tighten it up? Very simple, very simple. We're going to take our baffle and our pump. I'm going to set it down like this, and I'm just going to take my head blow. That's how I've done all my other Pontiacs, and they turned out perfect. I am not going to pound the shit out of this. I'm just going to end up just slowly tapping down on this, and I'm just going to tighten it up. I'm not going to try to bang it up against the impellers. I'm just going to slowly tighten it up. I'll probably put it on the ground actually on this pad, and I'm just going to slowly just kind of do like this and tighten that clearance up. You're like, oh, that's not doing it. Well, it gets it closer. I want it down closer to the minimum because I don't want cavitation. I don't want cavitation between the impellers and the backing plate. So I'm just going to go here and I'm going to slowly tap down till I get this clearance where I want it at 109. Maybe even, I may even tighten it up more. I may get down to maybe 90. But that's what I'm going to do. Okay, now I've got it down to right at 100 thou. The min is 80. I think we're good. So I don't know if you can tell, but it's by eyeball. Now it's just a little bit closer. You probably can't, but it was a good ways. I think we had 140. I've got right at 100. Minimum's 80. Now we're going to have a nice tight water pump clearance for this Pontiac. Okay, now we're getting ready to put our harmonic balancer on that we got from Butler. I can't remember. I think this is a Durabond was the brand. But I went ahead and it's got the timing marks on there. Some of them are a little discolored, but I'm going to be good. I just need to be able to see in here with my light. I'm not going crazy with it, but yeah. So I went ahead, it's up to you. You don't have to, but Butler offers a home to sell along with the harmonic balancer. This makes it much easier to install, especially on a brand new crankshaft. Anytime you got a brand new crankshaft, it's always going to be at the top of the limits on your journals. So we're going to hone this. We use a little WD-40, machine oil, whatever, and just hone it, and kind of helps us just kind of install it. We'll use our harmonic balancer installation tool. But again, you don't have to have this, but at least make sure you get all the preservative off both the inside and the outside. Before we install this, we're going to put plenty of assembly lube here where it engages our brand new seal on the front timing cover. Now we got it honed. I'm just going to put a little light oil on and get ready to install it. Don't forget, put your assembly lube on this journal before you go engaging that inner seal. You're not going to be happy when you have a leaking front seal if you don't do this. All right, we got our Pontiac long block completed now. So we started after we got the windage tray and the dipstick assembly in. We went in and test fit our new Butler Performance factory oil pan replacement. And just like Butler said, we went in and took our time, and we had to elongate the 6 holes in front. These 6 holes here had to be elongated. and it's just, I took a burr bit. It's not much at all, but it keeps it from being in a bind and makes the holes line up. Now, everything, I can start all these by hand. These Pontiacs and Buicks are the same way. They have the 45-degree timing chain cover, and people get these things cattywampus. They get them screwed up, they get them cross-threaded. This is aluminum, and I hand tightened them. They started by hand, went in great, and now they're nice and tight. The seal is all tight. We drew it in with our bolts from the middle. We got our new one-piece Butler Performance oil pan gasket on. Fits like a glove. We have our 11-bolt water pump housing on. We have the new sleeves installed. We set our clearance on the water pump impellers. I believe it was 100 thousandths. So now we got a nice tight clearance on the impeller with the brand new backing plate that goes behind the water pump. So now we've already ordered, we called my friend Brian Smith down in Texas. He's our Manton pushrod dealer. He's gone in and taken all the details for the length and the diameter and everything that he needs on the information. He's going to get those push rods ordered. Probably today's Sunday, so he's probably going to get them ordered Monday. Then Manton will drop ship them to our address here. So all of that was measured. Now while we're waiting on the push rods, this is where we're probably going to we got to make a decision here. This is our factory, I believe early 1970 high performance Pontiac 4-barrel intake manifold. This is going to get a Sniper quadrajet set up. And it's going to, like I said before in one of the other videos, it's going to have all the attributes of what a quadrajet sounds like, but it's just going to be a lot more reliable being EFI. This thing is obviously iron. Now this is where we got to make some decisions here. Our new cylinder heads, their intake runners, I think we're at 2.10. Pretty close. Yeah. So they're pretty big. So now I've got to make the decision. Do I want to do this myself, or really probably have my machine shop do it? This is cast iron. Obviously you can see the runners are much shorter on the intake manifold. They don't have to be perfect. We just want them enlarged a little bit to get close to the 2.05 or 100. Right here we're falling below 200. We're like at 1.9 or 8 something, 850. So these probably need to be opened up. I'm going to talk to our local machine shop, see if they can just blend these back, these runners back. Again, we're not trying to open up, you definitely don't want to open up more than what you've got on the cylinder heads. You'll create turbulence, but just open them up, give us that nice airflow we're looking for through the intake, through the heads. So the other thing is we have our valley cover from Butler Performance. I forgot what they call this, but they have a name. It's a super nice piece. We've test fit our intake manifold. However, we're going to have to do some. Fast Monty did a great video on this, and I follow him on all my Pontiac stuff. We're going to have to do some light trimming on each side because the intake, when it sits down, the bottom of the runners are hitting this, so it's not wanting to sit nice and flat. So it will once we trim this, and then we'll paint it. But this is a really nice valley cover. The old valley cover was really nasty, and that's one thing on Pontiacs. You really don't want, you got just crappy stuff inside. You don't want all that. This thing is just, it's older than I am, or close to it. We're the same age probably, and I'm more out myself. So that's it. Oil dipstick, windage tray, oil pan, harmonic balancer, timing chain cover, water pump, water pump sleeves, backing plate, and now we're on the top end. Thanks everybody.